Good evening, and welcome to Nocturnal Enigmas. In the heart of the dense, ancient woods, where the moonlight struggled to pierce through the thick canopy of gnarled trees, there lay a secret. It was a secret known only to those who had heard the whispers of the night wind and the warnings of the forest's creatures. It was a secret guarded by the most malevolent of beings, goblins. The legend spoke of goblins, grotesque and cunning, lurking in the shadows, their eyes like burning coals, and their fingers adorned with sharp, jagged claws. They were the keepers of a cursed grove, hidden deep within the woods, a place that had long been abandoned by even the boldest of adventurers. One moonless night, a group of friends fueled by youthful curiosity and a thirst for adventure decided to challenge the legend. Armed with flashlights and courage, they ventured into the ominous woods. Branches clawed at their clothing, and the silence of the night was oppressive. As they ventured deeper, the temperature seemed to drop, and an eerie mist enveloped them, shrouding their path in a ghostly veil. The forest came alive with strange sounds, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Suddenly, the group stumbled upon a clearing, bathed in an eerie blue light. At its center stood the cursed grove. Trees, grotesquely twisted and gnarled, encircled a pool of stagnant water, reflecting the distorted visage of the moon above. And there, in the center, was a grotesque statue, carved from black stone, a goblin. They approached the statue, unaware of the eyes that followed their every move. As they reached out to touch it, the ground trembled beneath them. The goblin statue shifted, its eyes flickering to life, and its stone mouth twisted into a wicked grin. With a cacophony of eerie laughter, the goblin statue shattered, releasing a horde of goblins from the shadows. They swarmed the intruders, their laughter turning to malevolent cackles. The friends screamed and scattered into the woods, desperate to escape the clutches of the goblins. The forest itself seemed to conspire against them, trees shifting to block their paths and roots rising from the ground to trip them. The goblins pursued relentlessly, their claws and laughter closing in on the terrified group. One by one, the friends were captured by the goblins, their anguished cries echoing through the night. Only one managed to escape, haunted by the memory of their ill-fated adventure into the woods. From that night forward, the legend of the goblins in the woods grew stronger, a chilling warning to all who dared to enter. The cursed grove remained hidden, waiting for its next victims, and the goblins continued their malevolent reign over the heart of the ancient forest, their wicked laughter forever echoing in the darkness. Statues of the old ones. Deep within the uncharted depths of the ocean, a brave cave diving team embarked on an expedition unlike any other. Their quest was to explore a mysterious underwater cave system, rumored to hold secrets of an ancient civilization. Little did they know that they would encounter horrors beyond their wildest nightmares. The team descended into the dark abyss, their powerful underwater lights cutting through the inky blackness. The cave's entrance was adorned with strange, grotesque statues of monstrous beings, tentacles writhing in eternal agony. These statues, carved from an otherworldly stone, sent shivers down their spines. As they ventured deeper, the cave's walls became adorned with more of these eerie statues. Each one seemed to be a tribute to a different eldritch creature, fish-headed monstrosities, octopus-like horrors, and beings with eyes where eyes should not be. The team's anxiety grew with every new discovery. Soon, they stumbled upon an enormous chamber deep within the cave. Its walls were covered in hieroglyphs, telling a story of a civilization that had once worshipped these incomprehensible entities. The carvings depicted rituals, sacrifices, and unholy pacts made in the name of these aquatic deities. Suddenly, a dreadful realization washed over the team. The statues were not just lifeless stone, they pulsed with an unnatural energy. A deafening, alien chorus filled the chamber as the statue's eyes began to glow with malevolence. In a panic, the divers tried to retreat, but it was too late. The ancient, eldritch beings awakened. From the depths, they emerged, their writhing appendages and grotesque forms defying all reason. The divers' sanity crumbled as they beheld the abominations before them. In the end, the underwater cave became their watery tomb, and the horrors that dwelled within remained undisturbed, their secrets locked away for eternity. The Lovecraftian tale of the cave diving team and the statues of underwater monsters would haunt the dreams of those who heard it, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left untouched in the abyss. I'm a changed man. David sat in his dimly lit cubicle, the hum of the office's fluorescent lights echoing in his ears. He stared at the spreadsheet on his computer screen, trying to make sense of the numbers, but his mind kept drifting. Lately, something strange had been happening to him, something he couldn't explain. It had started a few weeks ago, with a sudden increase in body hair. At first, he dismissed it as stress, but now his once smooth face was covered in coarse stubble, and his arms looked like those of a lumberjack. His hands had become gnarled and claw-like, with sharp, elongated fingernails. David tried to hide his transformation from his co-workers, wearing long-sleeved shirts and keeping his distance during meetings. But the changes were becoming harder to conceal. His sense of smell had sharpened to an unbearable degree, and he could hear the faintest whispers from across the office. The worst part, though, was the hunger, a deep, insatiable hunger that gnawed at him from within. He found himself sneaking out into the nearby woods during lunch breaks, unable to resist the urge to hunt small animals. He would return to the office, blood staining his shirt, his co-workers none the wiser. One evening, as David was working late, the moon rose full and bright in the night sky. Its eerie glow cast long shadows across the office floor, and David's heart raced as he felt a familiar burning sensation deep within him. He rushed to the restroom, locked himself in a stall, and watched in horror as his body contorted and twisted. Bones cracked, muscles expanded, and he let out a guttural howl that echoed through the empty office. When the transformation was complete, David was no longer a man, but a monstrous wolf-like creature. His mind was consumed by a primal urge to hunt, to satisfy his insatiable hunger. He burst out of the restroom and into the office, his co-workers' terrified screams filling the air. In the morning, the office was a scene of chaos and bloodshed. The news reported a savage animal attack, and David's co-workers had no memory of what had happened. David, now back in human form, sat at his desk, his clothes torn and bloodied, his body battered. He was in denial about what he had become, but there was no hiding the truth any longer. As the days went on, David struggled to control his transformation, to suppress the beast within. But the wolf in him was growing stronger, and he knew that eventually he would lose the battle for his own soul. Sweat. In the quiet town of Crestwood, nestled among the rolling hills, stood the foreboding edifice of Frank's Eats, a diner that seemed untouched by the passage of time. Emily, a timid and bullied teenage girl, had taken a part-time job there to earn money for her future and hopefully find solace from the torment she faced at school. Little did she know that her job at the diner would lead her into a nightmare beyond her imagination. The staff at the diner was a diverse mix, including a group of older girls who took an instant disliking to Emily. They subjected her to relentless bullying, making her life a living hell. One bitter evening, Emily was assigned to clean out the walk-in freezer, a small, gloomy room tucked away behind the bustling kitchen. It was a stark contrast to the lively diner, with its frigid air and eerie silence. As Emily worked, the older girls hatched a sinister plan. They waited until she was inside the freezer. Then Sarah, the ringleader, slammed the heavy door shut and locked it from the outside. Emily's screams were muffled by the thick door, and she soon realized that she was trapped. Panic set in as she pounded on the door, her breath forming icy clouds in the frigid air. But the noise from the busy diner outside drowned out her cries for help. Emily's heart raced as she shivered uncontrollably. She knew she had to find a way out before the freezing temperatures became unbearable. Fumbling for her phone, she dropped it to the floor, and it slid out of reach. In the dim light, she saw movement out of the corner of her eye. At first, she thought it was a trick of her imagination, a hallucination brought on by the cold. But then, she saw it more clearly, a small, grotesque creature, no taller than her knee. The creature had pale, wrinkled skin and eyes that glowed with a sickly green light. Its fingers were long and bony, ending in sharp claws, and it grinned at her with rows of needle-like teeth. Emily gasped, her fear momentarily overtaking the cold. She pressed herself against the freezer wall as the creature approached her, its jerky movements making it appear unnatural and eerie. Who are you?" Emily stammered, her voice quivering. The creature's voice was a low, raspy whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "I am the keeper of this frozen realm, child. You have trespassed into my domain." Terrified and trembling, Emily managed to whisper, "Please, let me out of here." The creature considered her for a moment, its glowing eyes flickering with an unknown emotion. Then, with a sudden, violent hiss, it lunged at her, claws extended. Instinct took over, and Emily fought for her life. She kicked, scratched, and bit at the creature as it clawed and snapped at her. Blood mingled with the frosty air, painting a gruesome tableau of the struggle. Emily's determination to survive burned brightly as she landed a desperate blow, sending the creature reeling. She seized the opportunity, unlocked the freezer door, and stumbled out into the diner, gasping for breath. Her co-workers rushed to her aid, but the small monster, its grotesque form dripping with Emily's blood, slinked back into the freezer's icy depths. Emily's injuries were severe, but her spirit remained unbroken. The older girls, their faces a mix of shock and fear, no longer found amusement in tormenting Emily. They had witnessed her fierce battle with the creature, and the terror they felt had quelled their cruelty. As Emily recovered from her injuries, she couldn't shake the feeling that the small monster still lurked in the shadows of the freezer, biding its time for a chance to return. The memory of her violent encounter haunted her, a constant reminder that sometimes the darkness that dwells in the deepest, coldest corners of the world is all too real. The changing room. The old Victorian house had always been shrouded in mystery. Its dark, looming presence on the corner of Willow Street cast long, eerie shadows, and the townspeople whispered tales of its haunted past. For years, the house had been abandoned, but now it had a new owner, a young woman named Sarah. Sarah was drawn to the house's eerie charm and its potential for renovation. She had a passion for old architecture and a love for all things spooky. But little did she know that the house held secrets far more chilling than she could ever imagine. On a cloudy October afternoon, Sarah moved into the house. As she explored the creaking halls and dimly lit rooms, she was captivated by its history. She decided to make the master bedroom her own. It was a grand room with high ceilings, a majestic four-poster bed, and a large ornate mirror that hung on the wall opposite the bed. The first night in her new home was uneventful, but that was about to change. When Sarah awoke the next morning, she was startled to find that the room had changed. The grand four-poster bed had transformed into a dilapidated cot. The ornate mirror was now cracked and tarnished, and the high ceilings had become low and oppressive. Confused and frightened, Sarah rushed out of the room, but when she opened the door, she was met with a sight that sent shivers down her spine. The hallway outside was different too. The wallpaper had changed from a delicate floral pattern to peeling blood-red wallpaper that seemed to drip like fresh paint. Desperate for answers, Sarah ventured back into the bedroom and closed the door. As she opened it again, the room had returned to its original grand state. It was as though the room had a life of its own, a malevolent spirit that reveled in tormenting her. Terrified, but determined to unravel the mystery, Sarah began researching the history of the house. She discovered that the room had once belonged to a family that had mysteriously disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only the haunting legend of their vanishing. Some believed they had been swallowed by the room itself, trapped for eternity. Sarah's nights became sleepless as she grappled with the room's unpredictable transformations. She tried to keep the bedroom door open at all times, but it would often swing shut of its own accord, trapping her inside the ever-changing nightmare. One night, as she lay in her grand four-poster bed, the room transformed once more. This time, the walls were lined with eerie, distorted paintings of the family that had once lived there. Their eyes seemed to follow her every move, and their twisted smiles filled her with dread. The room was filled with their ghostly whispers, their laughter echoing through the cold, dark air. Sarah knew she had to escape. With trembling hands, she reached for the doorknob and flung the door open. The hallway outside was distorted, like a funhouse mirror, but she didn't hesitate. She ran down the twisting, nightmarish corridor, the walls closing in on her. As she reached the end of the corridor, she burst through a door that led to the attic. She stumbled upon an old, dusty diary that belonged to the family who had lived there before. The pages were filled with desperate pleas for help, detailing the room's malevolent nature and the family's doomed attempts to escape. In the attic, Sarah found an old photograph of the family that had disappeared, frozen in time. She could almost hear their cries for help echoing in her mind. It was clear that the room had claimed them, and now it hungered for her. With newfound determination, Sarah gathered her belongings and fled the house, never to return. The room in the old Victorian house remained a sinister secret, a place where reality twisted and nightmares came to life, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to cross its threshold. The house on Willow Street would forever remain a chilling enigma, a place of terror that would haunt Sarah's dreams for the rest of her days.